Hi, welcome to my podcast, talk, video, rant, whatever you're going to call it. I'm thinking of changing the name from ranting to just something else because I don't rant very much. I think I'm a little too reasonable, and other people have said that too, that you're not really ranting, you're just real reasonable. So I might change that. Anyway, what we're going to talk about today is control. Being in control, what that looks like, what it doesn't look like, and how to develop it or get it if we don't have it and we want to. If you're looking at this on Instagram, it's going to cut off here in a second. So tune into my YouTube channel. Go to my website. That'll get you through the links. I'll put a link on Instagram so you can go through to the full video. But that's what we're going to talk about today. And so let's get to it. As far as law enforcement goes, again, this is mostly law enforcement specific video stuff. Do general stuff, and this can apply to everybody in general. But we're talking about control, and being in control. And we look at videos all over the internet now of police officers saying things that they probably shouldn't, or that they can't back up, making threats that they can't back up, or getting into legal battles with people when they have no legal standing, and or doing things that in hindsight, or with a little forethought, they probably could have avoided, or like I say, in hindsight, wish they hadn't done. Some of those end up in injuries to people, to the officers, to civilians. People who shouldn't get injured don't need to get injured. And it all comes down to control. The need to be in control, the feeling that they have to be in control of the situation. And as we talk about it, hopefully you'll start to see where I'm talking about this myth or this fallacy that people develop of how they're going to control their situations and be in control of things and control people in situations. And if you notice in these videos that it's pretty easy to see that the officer is not in control. They're not in control of the other people in the video who are involved in the situation. They're not involved in the situation as a whole, and they're not involved in control of themselves. They're not in control of the situation. They're involved in the situation. They're there, but they're not in control of any of those three: the situation, the people, or themselves. And part of that has to do with police training. As we look at police training, it focuses on control. It focuses on being in control. It's not really being in control of yourself. It's being in control of the people, of the situation. It's coming in with this law and investigating this and looking into that. And my favorite is the suspicious activity. What is suspicious activity? Well, I'm sitting in a park recording a video right now. That could be suspicious activity. Somebody looks out and sees me doing this, and why is he recording a video in this park across the street? And then sudden they call a police officer who doesn't have the wherewithal or the to say there's nothing suspicious about a person sitting in a park recording a video. But they think that since somebody called, they need to come and do something. Now they got to be in control of the situation, when there is no reason to be in control of any situation, because there's no situation to be in control of. But when you look at police training, you have everything is about control, arrest control, your command presence, that you command the situation by your presence, that all your activity, your function is controlling people and controlling situations. Everything's about that. The big lesson I learned, and I learned that early on in my career, which was very good. I was still in the FTO process, field training process. So I had my trainer with me, training officer. But I learned early that you can point a gun at somebody and they aren't going to listen to you. You don't have the ability to shoot them or the authority to shoot them, And they realize that, but they still don't have to listen to you. You learn quickly that you're not in control of anybody or anything, really, just by you being there. You may, but there's no guarantee to that. And like I say, even if you point a gun at somebody, they aren't necessarily going to listen to you. That was a big learning experience for me. And that was what started me down the road of understanding what control really means and what being in control really means. And what I learned from that is that there's really only one person in that situation that you can control, and that's yourself. I can control how I enter a situation, how I operate during that situation, and how I leave that situation. I can't control the people in it. I can try to motivate them to do what is really in their best interest, but I can't control them. I can't tell somebody, sit down, and it's a guarantee they're going to sit down. I learned about the power of motivation and the power of being able to talk people into really believing things are in their best interest when I worked in a jail. You learn pretty quickly that you're not going to physically control 30 men who don't follow the rules of society in the first place. So why are they going to follow your rules? That was a big eye-opener for me. So what I learned is I'm the only one that I can be in control of in any situation. And I learned that by being in control of myself, I control the situation. By being in control of me and how I respond to the stimulus that I receive from people, from the environment, from whatever it is, that and based on my experience, knowledge, and my known abilities, my capabilities, is I can control the situation. As you learn control and as you learn to what that looks like, you realize that there's what I think is there's three main things. Is you gain confidence. You gain confidence in your knowledge, what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do, what you need and don't need to do. You learn what your abilities are, what your capabilities are. You learn what you can do especially in a policing situation as a single officer, as part of a team, and what tools and resources that you have or are out there exist for you to be able to solve problems and gain control of situations. You also understand your responsibility to people and the situations that you find yourself in. You have a responsibility to all the people involved, whether they be the reporting party, the RP, the complainant, whatever you want to call them, whether they be a witness, the victim, even the suspect. You know, you have a responsibility to everybody involved to do the right thing, to solve the problem if you can, and if you are able to, if you have the resources and the knowledge to do that, and to not degrade the situation any more than it is. You know, as a police officer, you end up in a situation because the problem has gotten too much for the people and they can't handle it. So you're called. What good is that if you can't make the situation better? If you bring you know, what I talk about, crisis versus control, or chaos versus control. If all you're going to do is bring crisis and bring chaos, then why should you even be there? Stay away, because now you've also brought a bunch of weapons, and in some people's world, an intimidation factor that you have to work through or get past in order to be able to help them resolve these issues. So when you work in, you're learning control, you learn that it's affected by your confidence, your abilities, and your sense of responsibility to that. So what does control look like? Well, let's start with what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like on a traffic stop where you hear the officer or on a contact, and you hear the officer go, "This can go the easy way or the hard way." All right, what have you done? You have taken control out of the picture, your control, because you have said it's either going to go easy or hard. All right, what does that mean? What's easy? Well, I've seen this in videos where the officer's saying, "Do you have your ID?" And the person is under no legal obligation to give them the ID, and they know that, and they say, "No, I'm not giving you my ID." "Well, I need to see your ID." Well, no, you want to see their ID. I don't know why. I don't really care. For me, I'd be like, "Hey, what's my goal? If I want the person to leave, I'm gonna get them to leave. I don't want any more information than I need to have. It's not gonna do me any good. I just want the person to go." So then they say, "I need your ID." No, you want the ID. You don't need it. There's no reason for you to have it. And the person says that, calls bluff, and then now you're stuck. Well, you can do this the easy way or the hard way. All right, well, I already told you I'm not doing it the easy way, so what's the hard way? The hard way is usually only hard on the officer because they aren't in a position to actually require the person to give them any sort of identification. So now it goes back. Control is not screaming commands over and over and over again, expecting the person to suddenly respond. I like seeing that in events and videos. I see it in training when I'm training officers, is that they'll yell a command and then they'll scream it, and then they'll scream it louder, and then they'll think they're screaming it louder again, and they're not getting any response. And that's obviously, it's not convincing the person or motivating the person to do what you want them to do. So you realize that you don't have control by just screaming at somebody. Here's my one on traffic stops and says, when you see these officers get right up on the car or they lean into the car, and it starts to kind of go sketchy, so they kind of lean further into the car, like they're going to grab the keys or something like that, and the person takes off, and then they're being pulled by the car, doing something like that, and I'm just like thinking to myself, why are you touching the car? If the person's going to drive away, let them drive away. You might have their ID or who they are at that time. You at least have seen them. You know what they look like. The vehicle, you say, well, it might be stolen. Okay, then you'll deal with it. But is that worth you getting dragged by a car? Is that worth you getting injured or worse? Because maybe they were driving a stolen car, because maybe they had just committed a crime. There's a lot of possibilities out there, but they say, it's possible that monkeys could fly out of orifices, but what's the probability of that happening? So, that's not being in control. You see officers doing that, and it's like, you're not in control. If somebody's going to drive away from you, they're going to drive away. Step back. To me, if the situation starts to look like it's degrading, you do something different. And we'll talk about that in a second. So that's what control doesn't look like. What does it look like? For me, it's speaking instead of yelling for no reason. If I'm asking you to do something, or I need you to do something, I'm going to talk to you first. I can raise my voice, but I'm going to start talking to you. I'm going to give you commands, but they're going to be spoken. It's like I look at, parents, right? What was scarier as a kid, when your parents yelled at you or when they got real quiet and almost whispered something to you because they didn't want anybody else to hear what they were saying to you, because they didn't want any witnesses, right? So it's like that's more intimidating and scarier most of the time than just yelling, because when you yell, you put it all out there. But when you whisper to somebody, you just talk to somebody real quiet, that shows that I am very well in control here, and I'm actually keeping myself in control, because my out of control self is much different than this. Being in control is not issuing ultimatums, right? It's keeping those options open. It's not telling the person it's going to go this way or this way. It's saying, hey, here's what I'd like to have happen. How can we make this work out for us? in your head, in your mind, you already have the options where you need to go or where you can't go. So you don't want to put yourself in a corner and now you're stuck. And all you do is look bad. Because you can't, or you do something you shouldn't do, which is even worse. It's one thing to just look bad. Now you just kind of got to come out from under that and save face, you know. But if you do something wrong, it's a much harder road to come back from. Again, back to the traffic stop. If someone wants to drive away, let them. Follow it up with a warrant. Get them with a warrant. That's so much better. That's so much more effective, so much more final. Of saying, I got the final word in this. Yeah, you drove away. We weren't finished. We're not finished till I say we're finished. But to reach in a car, try to grab a key, you're not grabbing a key. And let's think about some of the new cars. They don't even have keys. What are you gonna do? Where's the push button to stop or start the car? You don't know. It's either here or there. So what? Get back. When things start to get sketchy, you should be using your training, your tactics to increase distance, space and time, cover and concealment, all that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be trying to close distance if you don't have the situation under control. And by that leads me to the last portion of this, is how do we develop that, or how do we get that control back? Well, the first thing is to realize you don't have any control in the first place. You have none. Once you realize that, you are well down the road to actually being in control. Once you realize you don't have control, your stress will go down, because you realize that you can't cause anything to happen or not happen. You can't force anybody to do what you say. You know, back to pointing a gun at somebody. I mean, you would think that pointing a gun at somebody, they would do exactly as you wanted them to. Exactly as you were telling them to. It doesn't work. So then you realize that even with that sort of motivation, if somebody is not really interested in listening to you, they're not going to. First thing you do is you work on controlling yourself. Gain control of yourself. Once you do that, like I say, you're well down the road to being in control of situations. All right, we got a thing here. I'm going to hold off just a second as we listen to the Denver ambulances come through. They love the sirens and the horns. I live in downtown Denver. I hear it all day and night. They love their horns. So, first things, don't express your frustration or anger. And you know, to put it in terms is, don't show your hand. If you're frustrated with somebody or you're upset with somebody, don't show it, don't express it. Because all that is to them is a tool. All that is to them is a means to really get you out of control and get you off your game. And as a police officer, if you get to that point, then what happens? You do silly things. You know, the only time you should show your hand is when you know it's winning hand, right? Right? If you're playing poker, you're not just throwing it out there, hey, I got a pair of twos, check it out. Everybody's be like, well, you're out. Wait till you know you have a winning hand. If you know you don't, you let the situation go. You say, well, you can't let the situation go. Yeah, if you don't have a winning hand, you can let the situation go. You can do something. Just don't keep going through it. Don't keep trudging into it, you know? Like, I'm in quicksand. Well, all right, let me just keep going into the quicksand. No, try to get out. Try to get back out. Like I say, if you know the situation is degrading, have an exit plan. Don't just have a continue to enter plan. Have an exit plan. How are we going to back out of this? You know, go back to the traffic stop. If the person starts getting real edgy and starts kind of, you know, doing stuff, hey, back it up. If you're all by yourself and you have nothing else going on with you, why are you going to get into a fair fight? Don't make it fair. Because I say this when I teach SWAT tactics. The suspect is always in a position of tactical advantage. Suspect always has the advantage. If they're sitting in their car, they know if they have any weapons and where those weapons are. They know if they can put it in drive and they can get out of there. They know what they can do. You don't. You're reacting to them, so you're always going to be a step behind of them. So don't try to be like, I'm going to take this direction now. Go, how do I back out of this? How do I have my exit plan? As I said, space and time, a little bit of distance. Think disengage. Don't think engage. Engage further. Disengage. And that's with everything, right? If somebody's not responding to you correctly, or you're doing this, think, how do I step back a little bit and see this from a bigger perspective, rather than from on top of it or right in it face to face. If I'm this close, how do I get back a little bit, get a little distance? That'll give you the ability to see things a little clearer. If the threat's only to you, especially, and not anybody else, and that's just across the board, whether it's, they aren't on a crime spree, it's only you. If they try to drive away, they're only gonna hit you, and that's no big deal, then back out. I mean, it's a big deal if they hit you. It's not a big deal. They're the only person, so you can avoid that. Stay out of it. Don't make that happen. Keep it from happening. Like I said, only engage when you have the winning hand. Only engage when you have sufficient your tactics, your good tactics, good decision making. When you have law, policy, and ethics on your side, right? Don't be going down that road of should I even be here right now? Things are going to go bad that way. Policy, are you outside of your department policy, your agency policies, and your ethics? Should you be doing this? Okay, it's a big deal. You got these kids smoking weed over here, but how far down that road do you want to go with them if they start being smartasses, right? Ethically, you just go, you know what? All right, guys, we're not done. I'll see you another time. And when I do, it'll be a little different. Make sure that you have the winning hand, okay? And lastly, the personnel, the amount of personnel. Make sure, as I always say, we're not there to fight fair. We're not there to fight. We're there to win the situation. We're there to win it. So our tactics, our personnel, our decision-making solid on good foundations, so that we're going to be successful in resolving the problem, the solution, bring about a solution to this situation. So it's like motorcycles. So just to wrap up about control. First thing you realize, you never have it. Only in yourself. You can only be in control of yourself. And by being in control of yourself, you present that confidence to other people that you're in control. You present that ability to be able to solve the problem or bring about a successful resolution to the situation. You're going to bring something to the table here, and you show that ability. And you also show that you're responsible to the people involved. That you're not there just to wreak havoc on the situation. You're there to bring about a good resolution, and whether it's restore calm, whether it's get people to to arrest somebody, whatever it is, you're going to show that you're responsible to all the people involved. And even suspects definitely appreciate that. They know they've done something wrong. They know they're going to have to pay the consequences. But if you can show that you're being responsible even to them, and not just being careless and kind of haphazard with them, that's going to go a long way to them motivating themselves to do what's best or in their best interests. So hopefully this has been some information for you and it helped you out as an officer. And if you're not an officer, it helps you out as a human being going throughout your day in the situations that you find yourself where you may wish to exercise some sort of control. Anyway, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me for a little while, and look forward to seeing you again.